This is Business Daily on Trust Television, where we bring you up to speed with trends in the world of business. My name is Chiamaka Enendu. First of all, let's take a look at the major news in the world of business. And right about now, let's take a look at how the markets fared during Friday's trading session, where we did see the Nigerian bourse end the trading day in the positive. Of course, we did see the market up by 0.12% at 71,112. That's the all-share index, and the market capitalization was at 39.1 trillion naira. Away from the market capitalization now, let's look at the volume. Of course, the market ended the trading day on Friday at 483.847 million naira, and the value of all the stocks traded on the floor of the exchange on Friday hit 6.032 billion naira, a major growth from what we had witnessed in the market on Thursday. And the deals that exchanged hands on the floor of the exchange on Friday hit 5,883 deals. Well, away from this now, let's move on to the top gainers on Friday's trading session. Of course, we did see Multiverse maintain its position as the top trader on the floor of the exchange on Friday, followed closely by Prestige, up by 10.00%. We also did see Multiverse, of course, end at 10.00% as well. And Mikio, recently introduced into the Nigeria exchange, of course, has maintained its spot in the top gainers for a couple of days now, and we did see up by 9.98%. And now to the losers table on the other side of the coin. Of course, we did see ABC Transport maintain its position as the highest loser on the floor on Friday, down by 10.0%. And Better Glass, of course, followed suit by minus 9.92%. Followed closely is CIP, down by 9.80%. And here you have it, the three losers for Friday: ABC Transport, Better Glass, and CIP. Away from the losers chart now, let's move on to the top trades and market movers. These are the major stocks on Friday that made the major impact in the market. And starting off, we did see Jais Bank hit 95.2 million shares on Friday, followed by Guarantee Trust Holdings, that is the parent company of the Guarantee Trust Bank, which hit about 35.3 million shares on Friday. And the Initiate, of course, followed closely by 29.5 29.5 million shares, I beg your pardon, 29.5 billion shares there from the initiates, of course. And now to the different sectoral performance on the floor of the exchange on Friday, which of course we did see the banking sector remain unchanged, maintaining the same position we did see it have on Thursday at minus 0.00%. And we also did see the industrial sector, of course, at 0.04%, down by 0.04% rather. And of course, closely is the consumer goods sector, which ended in the bullish trend, I beg your pardon, up by 0.36%. And the Nigeria oil and gas sector was up also by 3.71%, while the insurance sector is up, or was up rather, by 1.40%. And now to major markets within the African region. Speaking of Johannesburg Stock Exchange, Ghana Stock Exchange, and Nairobi Stock Exchange. And let's start with the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, which was up by 184.14% on Friday at 73,920.75 point on Friday. Of course, the Johannesburg Stock Exchange is one of the major stock markets within the African region. And followed closely is the Ghana Stock Exchange, which was up as well, ended in the positive territory by 0.11% to 3,195 point. The Nairobi Stock Exchange, a pretty small stock exchange, of course, in the eastern region of Africa, which was up on Friday by 0.33% at 90.50 points from Friday's trading session. Well, there you have it. That is the stock market review from the performance of the market on Friday. Let's go on a short break, and when we return, our conversation will commence. And you are still on to Business Daily on Trust Television. And just over 2 years ago, Nigeria signed or ratified the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, joining its counterparts in all over Africa, about 45 other nations, to sign this agreement. And how far has this agreement helped in trade facilitation in line with the responsibilities of the Nigeria Customs Service? Joining me now to discuss that is the National Public Relations Officer of the Nigeria Customs Service, Abdullahi Miwada. Thank you for joining me this morning on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Starting off, from your own assessment as a major player in the AFCFTA, that is the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, how would you say that agreement has fared within the Nigerian trading space?
Well, we are all aware that, yes, we are into an agreement that is about preferential treatment in terms of trade within African country. This is just an extension of what transpired at regional level, which is more of something similar to ECOWAS, ETLS at regional level, and now we are having an extension of it in a continental space. Now, as a department or as an agency of government that is responsible for management of import and export of goods in and out of Nigeria, we have a department which is called Tariff and Trade Department of the Nigeria Customs Service. Under the Tariff and Trade Department, we have the Trade Facilitation Unit. Now, if you look at the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, it's about trade facilitation. It's about Africa trading within itself. It's about encouraging trade within the African continent. Now, we call it Trade Facilitation Unit and also Preferential Trade Agreement, enforcing all issues that has to do with preferential trade agreements. Now, Nigeria Customs Service, if you all know that, is an agency that is saddled, unlike what we have in ECOWAS. NCS is responsible for, as a designated authority, that is designated competent authority for issuance of certificate of origin. Unlike when it's what is obtainable in ETLS, ECOWAS, ETLS, where NACIMA provide them certificate of origin. Now, that is one of the first fundamental things we are supposed to do, we have done as Nigeria Customs Service now. How do we identify the modalities that will be involved in doing that? So, okay. Secondly, apart from doing that, now we have developed a prototype of the certificate of origin in consonant with the AFTA Secretariat. So now we have developed the certificate of origin. Then we have also submitted the signatures and stamps of those who are going to be the releasing officers at our various ports to be, we have submitted to the AFTA Secretariat. So those are some of the things we have done. Then we have moved forward to, all these things are a relationship with in conjunction with the National Action Committee for Implementation of AFTA. We have also went further to supervise some of this company that are prepared for trade under AFTA. Now, some of the companies we have are like the Dangote Sugar, Dangote Fertilizer, Dangote Cement Bags, and so on. We have also certify some of these companies so that they will meet up with the origin criteria, because there are rules of origins that have been determined by AFTA to come up with this standard, whether those goods have fit into the sphere of becoming origin of a particular country.
Talking about the rules of origin, I know the Nigeria Customs Service has repeatedly said that it would not compromise on the rules of origin. How has that played out so far in the African Free Trade Continental Agreement process?
The reason for not to compromise is, one, to have the template, the signature specimen for those who are going to enforce that. The second issue now is to visit those factories, that is inspection of those factories that have proved interest in partaking in this form of trade within the Africa under the umbrella of African Continental Free Trade Agreement. So now we have, that's why I was able to itemize some of the companies that have met of our origin rules of origin requirement. in tandem with the set out rules of origin standard established by AFTA. Because if you realize one of the key development we have under African Continental Free Trade Agreement is that even at the WTO, that is the World Trade Organization, one of the issues they are facing is to come up with unified process of coming up with the rules of origin. Rules of origin have been a very, very fundamental problem when it comes to international trade. But in AFTA, I think we are ahead of that. So that is why we have identified those companies that are fit to meet up those criteria that have been identified by AFTA. And I've mentioned some of these companies, and I can mention other companies like Secure One ID, like Lee Look Bags, like Protector and Gamble, like Flex Films Africa. Those are companies that we have inspected, and let me say they are good to go.
Okay, let's move away from that now to policy implementation. Of course, we understand how important policies are when it comes to the AFCFTA. How would you say the policies implemented so far have impacted in the success or failure of AFCFTA?
Apart from the issue of rules of origin, that is an issue on its own. Now we need to look at the issue of the Guide Trader Initiative (GTI), which was done in the 1st of January 2021. Now, the legal framework, we have ratified this agreement, but we have to domesticate these laws within the legal framework in the Nigeria context. So those are issues that are beyond the Nigeria Customs Service. I'm sure the Ministry of Justice and the Ministry of Finance are working on how to develop a legal framework that will be domesticated in tandem with the agreement of the AFTA. So this is another stage that if achieved will lead to the end, that is the end which is encourage this export under the umbrella of AFTA. So we're waiting for that to happen. I'm sure the customs is also in consultation, as I've stated earlier, with the National Action Committee for implementation of AFTA.
Okay, let's talk about collaboration now. And of course, there has been quite a number of collaborations that the Nigeria Customs Service has had with other government agencies to ensure the success of AFTA. One of those is the recent call by the Comptroller General of the Nigeria Customs Service, speaking of Comptroller Adewale Adeniyi, where he called on the maritime sector to work hand in hand with the customs. Can you tell us how this collaboration has worked so far, and what other collaborations has the Nigeria Customs Service gotten into to ensure the success of AFTA?
I think I will try to divide this collaboration in three broad areas. Now, collaboration with government agencies. In the recent times, last 2-3 weeks, the Nigeria Customs Comptroller General of Customs, Bashir Adewale Adeniyi, MFR, have visited or partake in one of the events that was hosted by the NPA, Nigerian Port Authority, because they host all the Port Authority of West African region. And the theme for that conference is also attached to issue of how do we use harness on the maritime sector for the success of AFTA. And the CGC gave his mark that there is no way you can have an effective implementation of AFTA if the maritime industry, where these items will be conveyed from one country to another, are not effective. And he calls for collaboration with the NPA, Nigerian Port Authority, so that to ensure that goods move in and out of the country seamlessly. So we must collaborate, and customs cannot do it in isolation of this critical agency like the Nigerian Port Authority. Now, on the other hand, is the interaction and relationship with also the private sector. You cannot succeed in AFTA if the manufacturing industries do not have a kind of conducive ecosystem to perform. In that age, the Customs Controller General Customs have discussed and also engaged with stakeholders in the clearing value chain, like the terminal operators, like the freight forwarders, like the shipping lines, and so on. And the engagement is how do we ensure seamless movement of goods in and out of our ports? And how can we ensure 48-hour cargo clearance? How can we decongest our ports? And we discussed those issues, and this led to inauguration of a committee that will look into even the overtime cargoes that we have. They are there rotting in our ports, so that we have economic space for even these goods to move in and out of the country. So that is another level of engagement. Now, lastly, on the 16th of this month, that is precisely on Thursday, I beg your pardon, the Comptroller General of Customs delivered a lecture, and he was a guest lecturer at the, we call it a guest lecturer, distinguished guest lecturer at the Nigeria Institute for International Affairs. And the theme for that conference is Nigeria's economic growth and development, reforming and positioning the Nigeria Customs Service for the African Continental Free Trade Area and other emerging challenges. And the CGC made a practical presentation of what AFTA is. And I mean practical and deliberate about the usage of this word, because he did not go into technicalities. He understood his audience, and he explained to them what are the process, what is the role of customs and other agencies that we are supposed to do to make sure that AFTA succeeds. So those are part of the engagement, part of the collaborative effort for AFTA to succeed.
Okay, let's talk about digitization and automation. We are quite aware of the recent introduction into the Nigeria Customs Service. Speaking of the modernization project, how or what is the meeting point between this modernization project and the African Free Trade Continental Agreement? Is there any meeting point? How will that work under the modernization project?
Well, one of the key elements, the three cardinal policy thrusts of the Comptroller General of Customs is about innovation, about from collaboration, consolidation, and innovation. Now, let's talk about innovation. Now, the fact remains that what the simple definition of trade facilitation, because AFTA is about trade facilitation, it's about one of the elements of trade facilitation is automation. Now, apart from harmonization, apart from simplification, apart from standardization, one of the very important elements in trade facilitation is automation of processes and procedures. Now, you can't have trade facilitation when you operate in an analog environment, when you operate in an environment that do not have non-intrusive inspection technology. Part of the meeting I stated earlier we had with the terminal operators, how do we maximize the usage of our scanners? Why must we at this age subject our goods to 100% physical examination? How can we make our risk management more robust? Because when you have a robust risk management system, automatically there will be selectivity. You don't have to subject all containers to physical examination. It has to be that selectivity procedure. It's an automation process. How do you make sure that you use AI technology, artificial intelligence? How do you use blockchain and others? So on this premise, we were part of a conference of WCO that has to do with technology. We call it WCO Technology Conference at Hanoi in Vietnam. And we saw cutting edge technology there. We saw how we can leverage on technology to make sure that trade is facilitated, revenue is collected maximally, and we have efficient and seamless and clearance procedures. So on this note, the modernization project of the Nigeria Customs Service is a reality. And those are things we are working on, and we are trying to make sure that all our processes are end-to-end automation of all our processes and procedures. We are at a particular stage. We are not starting on ground zero. But if you look at how we started, for instance, our clearing software where we started with Asikuda, we realized our Asikuda is not effective. We moved to ++. We moved to NISIS 1, a Nigeria Integrated Custom Information System. And we moved to now NISIS 2, Nigeria Integrated Custom Information System 2.
In a minute, just before we go, our time is fast spent.
Talk about automation of e-commerce.
Okay, our time is fast spent, but just in a minute before we go, there are quite a number of opinions from economic observers and watchers who are saying that Nigeria is not enjoying the benefits of AFTA as issued due to policy bottlenecks. What is your opinion on that view?
Well, the issue of policy issue, as an agency of government, we are responsible for implementation of government policies. We also advise government, and let me tell you this is a listening government, that we proffer advice, and the government listen to us on how to make sure our policy is in consonance with the realities of AFTA. As I've stated earlier, the foundation for the success of AFTA is domestication of laws, of legal frameworks that are in tandem with the agreement in AFTA. So when we get that done, then we'll start talking about policy, because the base is the legal framework. And when we have that sorted out, then we can start talking about how will our policy encourage this noble initiative of trade within African countries.
Abdullahi Mewada there, the National Public Relations Officer of the Nigeria Customs Service. Thank you for joining us on the program this morning.
It's a pleasure to be on Trust TV this afternoon, and do have a pleasant day ahead. Thank you.
And this is where we wrap up today's edition of the program Business Daily on Trust TV. Do well to join us again, same time, same station tomorrow. And of course, follow us on all our digital media platforms for updates on politics, business, and of course, sports and entertainment. My name is Chiamaka Enendu. Thank you for watching.